Let Hooper take a turn.
Hooper drives the boat, Chief.
Hi there, and welcome to Baseball by Design. I am SportsLogos.net minor league baseball correspondent Paul Caputo, broadcasting live, as always, from the Sunday Helmet Hall of Fame in my basement in Fort Collins, Colorado. Today, we're going to be talking about the Single-A Clearwater Threshers. Later on in this episode, I will welcome back to the podcast Jason Klein of the design firm Brandiose. I'll be speaking with Ranger Amy Burnett live from Clearwater, Florida, just for a few minutes. And shark enthusiast / expert Karrie Burnett will be here to talk about thresher sharks and other kinds of sharks. Right now, I am so pleased to be joined by the general manager of the Clearwater Threshers, Jason Adams. Jason, how are you doing?
Excellent, Paul. Thanks for having me on. I'm very appreciative to be able to chat about the Threshers and the logo. I'm a kind of a logo junkie as well. Maybe not to yours, just looking and seeing some of those hats there, but pretty close.
I am a Phillies fan, so this is a special treat for me to feature the Threshers on the podcast here. This is a nickname that I was sort of startled when I realized it's been around since 2004. This name has had a certain amount of staying power, and not just the name, but the logo itself has remained unchanged since 2004. That's an eternity in minor league baseball. Can you tell me why it was? I mean, there's a lot of different sharks, and as you mentioned, there are some other teams with shark logos. Just across the state from you, you have the Jupiter Hammerheads, of course. Why Threshers instead of any other shark?
So I think back in some of the early research stage, I think they either Jason or someone in that program or in the group came across that the thresher shark was in the Gulf of Mexico. I think it's more prevalent maybe northeast part of the country, and it's a unique shark. It's, I think, the only shark that basically paralyzes its prey with its tail and then attacks. So it was a unique kind of backstory. It's a different type of shark. It's not just the jaws coming at you and eating you type of thing. It's and you can kind of see that distinguishing feature on the logo with that longer tail that the thresher shark has.
So I mentioned I'm a Phillies fan. I was at Jack Russell Stadium in 1994 to see some spring training Phillies action. Back then, the team was the Clearwater Phillies. I realized if I were really emphasizing my Philadelphia bona fides, I'd be calling it the Clearwater Phillies. But I do have a T-shirt that says Clearwater on it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We see a lot of those.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
I'll bet that you do. But all of this is to, in 2004, the team made, I think, a wise decision. Even though I'm a Phillies fan, they made the wise decision to embrace a unique nickname. But the team still has a very close relationship with the parent club, including the fact that the Phillies themselves play spring training at the same ballpark where you play your regular seasons. How important is that relationship with the Phillies to the team and for branding purposes? How closely tied are the Threshers to the Phillies?
Sure. No, that's great. For us, it's a little different because we're all Phillies employees working as Threshers employees as well. So it's a different kind of atmosphere and maybe a closer connection internally as well with some of the player development side. On kind of the branding side, we make sure to include some of those color elements and schemes that are consistent with the Phillies red especially. And as they go through the organization, there's other opportunities to stay in that color scheme. But you referenced Jack Russell, and back when I had more hair and I was working with Jack Russell, and we would get people calling in June saying, I thought the Phillies only were there for spring training. And like, well, and it happened more than you could even imagine, that they thought it was the Major League Phillies. So going through that process, it was a chance. We were moving into a new facility to rebrand and kind of we didn't want to separate, but provide that identity that yes, we are still Phillies, but this is the Threshers, and really lock into that hyper local community service that we lock is a main cog in what we do. And we still, just last week we did an Alec Bohm bobblehead. So we with his Threshers uni on.
I hope the Alec Bohm bobblehead had that fanatic bandana that he likes to wear, and the long hair. He had shorter hair when he was with the Threshers.
Yes, for sure.
When this brand came out in 2004, it was really the very beginning of sort of the wacky era of minor league baseball. There were some wacky teams out there, but this is, this brand came out right around the same time that, say, the Montgomery Biscuits came out. So it was right around that time. It's a more serious brand than many of them are in minor league baseball. It's not a cartoon shark, right? Like, it is a more serious looking shark, and it really accentuates that long tail. And obviously I'll talk to Jason about that later on in this episode. But the team has stuck with that more serious look for a minor league baseball team.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as we were kind of transitioning, a lot of our Clearwater community was an older fan base, especially season ticket holder base that were, I would say, more traditional. So we didn't want to go quite that to the extreme of some of the examples that you had mentioned, but we did want to use it to update the colors, to make, okay, it's what is going to make the players proud to wear as well. What represents, grit and toughness, a little bit of that as well. And then what other elements can we make it more cartoony and fun in the ballpark? So we had fun with our mascot Finley, who's a cartoony version of the shark that, he's known all around the local Tampa Bay market now, just because we do push him out there everywhere.
Well, and Philadelphia sports teams are known for our mascots, so I can see Finley being popular. One of the outlets that you have given yourself as a team for sort of minor league baseball fun is this alternate brand. You referenced it earlier. It was one of the nicknames that did not get selected in the Name the Team contest. It was a finalist but not selected. Is the Beach Dogs, and that is very definitely a cartoony, fun, dog in a beach shirt and a beach hat and on a surfboard throwing a baseball. That gives you the opportunity to have some sort of minor league baseball fun there. What was the thinking in coming up with that alternate brand?
So that you referenced kind of the initial rebrand, and it was one of the ones that we were really looking at closely, and unfortunately at the time the marks were owned by an apparel company.
Oh,
so it, the trademarking search and license, all that kind of came back like, I can't really go that route. So at that time it disappeared as an option. So then fast forward almost 15 years later, and that company was long since gone, and we had the opportunity to say, okay, well, it started off as like, well, let's brand as like a what if night. What if we became the Beach Dogs instead? And we launched it kind of late. What was that, 2018? Didn't quite, we wanted to do a little bit earlier. Kind of sat down and planned, okay, let's make this part of a monthly type of thing. So then did that for the 2019 season, and really started tying in some of our charity partners that work with dogs as well. So now it's come all full scale to we do once a month, the last Friday home game. We take that Beach Dogs identity, and then we partner with a different charity each month to raise awareness, and dogs can come into the ballpark. They buy a dog ticket, which is just essentially the 100% donation back to that charity of the night. Okay. So we've had fun with that logo and kind of activating another community partner as well, or partners. So, but it's a logo that definitely transcends this area. Our merch folks are shipping them out to the West Coast frequently. So it is still popular, and it's one of those logos that you could just wear it and it's not gaudy, or it's not tying you into Clearwater. Like you said, it's a dog on a surfboard with a baseball. So, I think some of the funness with that. So, and the colors they really pop as well.
It's very beachy, and it's sort of a departure. And I always see these alternate logos as almost like Halloween for minor league baseball teams, where, it's like, if you have this serious brand with this, fierce looking shark, like, hey, I'm going to go completely 180 and do this really fun, different thing. So it's, I enjoy that aspect of these alternate brands for sure. You mentioned you could send me an ice cream helmet. I actually will be able to grab one of those ice cream helmets myself. At the time of this recording, I'm, about a week and a half from a Labor Day trip to Florida, where I anticipate experiencing at least one, maybe two ice cream helmets while I'm in Clearwater there. So I'm going to get to the ballpark for the first time over Labor Day, which will complete the circuit for me for the Phillies minor league ballparks. I will have gotten to all four Phillies minor league affiliates after I get to Clearwater in about a week and a half.
Outstanding. We look forward to having you out here and showing you around, and definitely look forward to hosting.
Well, I look forward to raiding the team store and coming home with a lot of plastic things that have the Threshers logo on them, because they will be prominently featured on the wall behind me and on the shelf out there. So, Jason, I really appreciate you taking time to talk about the Threshers branding, and look forward to getting to a ballpark. And I'll come knock on the press box door and say a quick hello if that's all right when I'm there.
No, definitely look me up when you get here, and I'm glad to show you around and chat.
Jason, where can people find you? Where can people find the Clearwater Threshers on social media?
I am Thresher GM Jason on Twitter. So I recently kind of launched that. We're at threshersbaseball.com, at Threshers on their handles for Threshers Baseball on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Fantastic. I just found you and followed you here on Twitter, and look forward to meeting you in person in about a week and a half. Jason, thank you so much.
All right, Paul. Thank you. You might have just doubled my followers, and I'm working on it.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Paul. We'll see you soon.
All right, everyone. I am so pleased to welcome back to the show friend of Baseball by Design, Jason Klein of Brandiose. Jason, it's the off season. Well, yeah, it's the offseason for minor league baseball. Major League Baseball playoffs at the time of this recording are still going on. My Phillies are still, at the time of this recording, involved, which is relevant.
Let's go Fightins. Let's do it.
Let's go Fightins. That is an interesting point to me, because as a Phillies fan, I am hyper aware of the fact that Brandiose is responsible for all four brands of the Phillies affiliates. So
yes,
you love the Phillies, obviously. So how come you love the Phillies so much?
I mean, they're great to us. I am super stoked to talk about Clearwater. It was like one of the first, it was the kickoff project that really, I mean, so many creative milestones, so many retail milestones in terms of like merchandise sales. And it was just, we did TV ads for them for 10 years, I think, flying down every year to Clearwater, right. To produce TV ads. So it is like the OG Brandiose team.
It is a beautiful ballpark. The beaches are really great there. I just had my first Clearwater Threshers, excuse me, this past summer. Got to a game there. The team store was just a freaking landmine for me. I probably dropped.
It's so good.
Oh my! There's so much between my Phillies and the and the Threshers, obviously. I know that you like to go immerse yourself in the culture at these places where you go and you do these things. Did you and Casey go swimming with sharks when you decided to do the Threshers logo?
We did. And it was actually like one of the first projects where I just felt like it was really, we were starting off early. We had just graduated college, and I thought, I've never been to Florida. I don't know. Like, I can sort of give a California version of like the beach, but like this seems really like a disservice to the community, to the fans. Like, I want to like really spend time with the fans, the team. So we packed our bags and we got on a plane and we flew down there. And I remember, they had just run a name the team contest, and they had like names like the Sand Sharks and the Beach Dogs. And I was just like, they're all kind of like what we'd now call tastefully dull, right? It's like, just I don't know, it didn't do anything for you.
Yeah.
And this is pre Iron Pigs naming and Chihuahuas and that sort of approach. So we walked down to the docks and we started talking to the locals and like, tell us about like, what are you pulling out of the water? And they're like, this and that. And they talked about the thresher shark, which has the longest tail in the shark family. And what it does is when it wants to go in for a kill, it like slaps the prey with its tail and like stuns it. And then it like goes in for the kill. And we're like, oh man, we could build an awesome story around this. And so, we started, there was a lot of things that we tried new. One of the ideas was, if you think about the Jaws theme, like the Jaws movie works because it's the music. It's not about the shark. It's about not seeing the shark.
Yeah.
And so Casey had this idea, is like, what if we had like a life preserver, like a shark bite taken out of it, right? So you don't even see the shark. It's like our equivalent of the Jaws theme. Another idea we had that had never been done before was a batting logo and a fielding logo. So the batting practice jersey, the batting helmet had the shark, holding the bat. The fielding logo had the shark chasing the ball. And up at that point, there was a lot of letters on minor league caps. Even if you had like a mascot or character or some sort of hero on it, it still was like a letter. And I remember thinking, Casey and I really were at the point where we were trying to get clubs into what we call the Brandiose 7-figure club. And the Brandiose 7-figure club is where a team has done like $1 million in retail sales their first year. And we do, obviously the things we can't control, who the retail manager is, the size of the team store, what product mix, but everything that we can control, we're always trying to get them into the Brandiose 7-figure club. And so one of the things that we realized was to do that, we had to sell merchandise in bulk, in volume. And to do that, we needed little league teams to adopt that. So when little league teams get to choose what kind of team, they could be the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers, whoever, but they also could be minor league baseball teams. And if we had a C on there, you would have a team in, San Francisco, a little league team being like, oh, the Thresher Shark, we could be the Threshers. There's a C on it. And now we have to have this internal reconciliation about why does it have a C on it? We're in San Francisco, or we're in Seattle, we're in San Diego, or we're, in Miami, anywhere, right? Anywhere there's sharks, or maybe you're just in Wichita and you want to be the Threshers. So we made a very conscious decision. It was the first time we did this. We are not going to put letters on caps because we just can't sell it nationally. And so that was like one of the first things that happened. And we built out, obviously the shark primary logo chasing the ball. We also had this idea of expanding the story. We were really using Disney style storytelling in how we thought about this. And, we have a logo. It's a hurricane swept palm tree that really, it's in the colors. It reinforces the story. And a funny story is when we were coming up with colors, right? So we're down there, the ballpark is, I think, under construction. And when the ballpark was under construction, the ballpark, for those who are not familiar, is the Phillies spring training home. And so the colors that were chosen for the architecture were Phillies inspired Florida colors, right? So it wasn't exactly like Phillies blue. It wasn't like royal blue. It was like a smoky blue, right? Or it was it wasn't white. The buildings were like sand color, right? So it was sort of like Phillies, Florida colors, if you will. And so we were thinking to ourselves, oh, well, what if we took the colors from the ballpark and we embraced them and made them the team colors? So you had obviously Philly red because all the Phillies teams have to have, Red Sox because of the Phillies uniforms. So we had Phillies red, and then we're like, oh, let's, instead of doing like royal blue like the Phillies, let's do like a smoky blue, right? Shark kind of blue. And let's do instead we'll throw in some peach in there because it's Florida. And then, we thought instead of doing a white Phillies uniforms, let's do sand uniforms and it'll look like the ballpark. And I remember we were told a story that the owner, David Montgomery at the time, came down and lost his mind because he's like, why did you guys paint our spring training home the color of your single A team. And they're like, no, what are you talking about? They're like, why do they paint the ballpark to look like our minor league team? We're come down here for spring training. And they didn't realize it was actually the opposite had happened, and had chosen the colors of the ballpark.
Well, I went and grabbed it while you were talking here. This is the hat I
there
picked
it
up.
is.
And the great thing about this was I honestly spent about 20 minutes in the team store because there were so many options, so many things to choose from between the Philly spring training and the Threshers. I went with a two-tone red and blue cap with the shark chasing the ball logo.
Fielding logo.
The fielding logo, absolutely. And so I saw the different logos down there, and I think you and I even talked about this when I wrote the article for sportslogos.net about this team. But I didn't realize that you had actually done that, right? Like that was why there were two different versions of that logo.
Yeah.
Understanding, I mean, I understand that they play at the Philly spring training facility. Is the relationship to the parent club more important with this team than it has been with other projects that you've worked on?
It has. And it's, it's funny. I remember I was talking with John Timberlake, who's the director of Florida operations and the, sort of the ringmaster down there, if you will. And he told me, one of the reasons that we did this rebrand was everybody felt like Clearwater, they're the Clearwater Phillies beforehand. They were building this new ballpark. They were going to go in and into this new ballpark. Everybody felt like Clearwater deserved its own hometown team identity. And that was really why we were there. And he told me probably 15 years later, they're at like a street fair and they got like a pop-up tent. And they had half of the tent was Philly stuff and half the stuff was Threshers stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy walks up and he's wearing like a Tampa Bay Rays, gear head to toe. And he goes, he looks over and there's like two pocket schedules. There's like a Philly schedule and there's a Thresher schedule. And he goes, I'll take a Threshers schedule any day. I love the Threshers, but I hate the Phillies. And I was like, man, that's it. That was the whole thing. That's what we were going for. Like that's it. Is here is Rays fan who like loathes, like he was like visually like for the Phillies, and just had the warmest, heartwarming feeling for the Threshers.
Yeah. And
the Threshers, when we launched the brand, we really, Mike Schmidt was coming on that first year as the skipper, as we called him. Mm-hmm. And we were like, okay, like how do we launch this brand? And they had a bunch of billboards. And so we had convinced John, I was like, John, we should do a billboard that has a shark silhouette, like it's like sort of like in the deep depth of, and it should say in our font, Clearwater beaches are no longer safe. He was like, oh man, I don't know, that's a big one. I was like, we're gonna put a logo. I was like, John, we haven't even unveiled yet. Let's just let's just do a tease. Yeah. And so we had like 9 billboards around all of Clearwater, and it said Clearwater beaches are no longer safe. That's all it said. And they had like a shark silhouette. And all of a sudden, like the board of tourism starts calling Viacom, and they're like, whoa. Like, they're like, what's going on? They're like, and they wanted to know who the author was, like, who had paid for these billboards. And Viacom was great. They're like, we're not allowed to, like, I can't let you know who that was. And so John called me and said, John, they're panicking. Jason, they're panicking. What do we do? I was like, well, how much longer left do we have the unveiling? And he's like, 2 weeks. And I was like, I got another billboard we're going to do. And the next billboard that came was the same look, silhouette of a Thresher shark, sort of in the water. And it said more than 70 attacks this season. And it created hysteria. But what it did was it got all of Tampa Bay leaning in and talking about them. And, when we unveiled the logo, I think it said more than 70 attacks this season. Then it had the Clearwater Threshers, or threshersbaseball.com. Mm-hmm. And it was, everybody was leaned in. We had like a news magazine called The Fish Wrap. We had all the business cards had shark bites taken out of the side.
Nice.
So you instantly, when you get the business card, it says like, hey, we're in the fun business. There's just so many fun little things like that. We sent season ticket mailers in a plastic bottle. Like that was the idea, is like, nice. You put a cork in a plastic bottle and you could ship it in the mail. Like it was like, a message out to sea. There's just so much of that fun stuff.
It's interesting though, because I mean, you have all these sort of fun ideas and very minor leaguey, but the logo itself is fairly serious, right? Like
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
serious
yeah.
shark. It's not cartoony, right? Like it's a more
Yeah.
serious shark. So to sort of take that more serious brand and to do, to do all that fun stuff
Yeah.
is great. The billboards, I was laughing at the billboard story because you've told me that before, like when we talked for sports logos, and I just think that that's great. I love that people were freaking out about about shark attacks coming to Clearwater.
Yeah. How do
Um,
you, I mean, that's kind of the question is like, how can we create tension, right? How can we get people, they don't have $1 million ad budgets at the minor league level. How do you get people to lean in? How do you create tension? And how do we use this vehicle, if you will, to reinforce whatever we're trying to do? It's launching a brand, all you can eat night, what is the vehicle? And then how do we use it to sort of communicate our story?
Absolutely. Once it was unveiled, how did folks like it?
Man, I loved it. It was so fun. It took about 1.5 years to get into the seven-figure club, but they did it. It was our first team to get in the seven-figure club for retail sales. They did 8 times, what they did as the Phillies, the Clearwater Phillies to the Clearwater Threshers, and so it was great. It was we got a soft spot in our heart for the Clearwater family. They're just lifelong friends.
I love this logo. Had an awesome, I mean, this brand was such a fun part of the experience when I was there at the game. And so I get to talk to you about all these logos that we feature of yours on this podcast, which if I haven't said it, enough, I so appreciate you taking the time to talk about all of this with me.
It's so much
fun to get to talk to you. And once again, thank you so much for taking that time. And I'll mention, I also don't mention this every single time. You're on all the socials at Brandiose. You've got that great brand synergy going on. But Jason, I look forward to speaking to you again in the not too distant future. We've got a couple more coming up. We're going to have you on to talk about the Lakewood Blue Claws in a week or two here. So that'll be fun. And then this one, I haven't even mentioned to you yet. I'm doing an episode on the Shuckers. So we'll talk some Shuckers later on as well.
Awesome. I'm super stoked.
Jason, thank you as always. I super appreciate it. We will talk to you soon.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right, everyone, welcome back. This is more of an interlude than it is an actual segment.
An interlude interview.
It's an interlude interview. I'm here in Clearwater, Florida, with Ranger Amy Burnett, Baseball by Design wildlife correspondent Ranger Amy Burnett. We're not going to be talking to Ranger Amy about sharks, though. We're talking about the ballpark experience, because here we are in Clearwater. Ranger Amy, what do you think of this ballpark?
I love it. This is an amazing ballpark. It really reminds me of spring training, but I guess that's because it's the Phillies spring training venue.
It is indeed a spring training facility. Not only is it a beautiful ballpark, though, it is replete with touches of Philly. We got some Delco cheesesteaks. There are 2 places where you can get Delco cheesesteaks.
You were so happy.
Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania, and right here in Clearwater. And so Delco, by the way, for the uninitiated, means Delaware County. It's where I grew up. I grew up in Delco.
But not in Delaware.
Not in Delaware. It's Delaware County, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. We've got ads for Wawa on
I'm staring at this bright yellow and red Wawa ad and I feel like you're home in Philly.
It is glorious.
Yeah.
And we are drinking some souvenir beers with the Threshers logo on one side and the Phillies logo on the other side. And we're drinking some Yinglings. Mm-hmm. So it's a beautiful ballpark. It is a thrill to be here. There's a shot by the Mighty Muscles for a single here to lead off the top of the 4th.
I hate to say it. I think the Mighty Muscles are really living up to their name.
So we're here. We're just checking in. This is us just checking in from Clearwater, enjoying the ballpark.
We wish you were all here. Wouldn't that be fun?
Well, how great would it be if all of the listeners of this podcast were here in section 113 with us at the Clearwater Threshers game? We got palm trees, we got Yuengling beer. We have not yet gone for our ice cream helmets, but they've got powder blue ice cream helmets with the Threshers Shark logo on them.
Oh my gosh.
We'll be getting those.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a quick interlude just to say what a beautiful ballpark. It is Philly South for sure.
There's a little breeze going. There's some palm trees in the distance.
All right. Well, back to the regularly scheduled podcast episode.
Bye.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I am so pleased to be joined for the first time on this podcast by shark enthusiast Karrie Burnett. Karrie, hello, how are you doing?
Fine, thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
I'm very excited to have you on the podcast. Not only are you deeply knowledgeable about sharks in general, but you have the notable credential of being the sister of Baseball by Design's wildlife correspondent, Ranger Amy Burnett. So this is the first sibling pairing that we've had on the podcast before. How did you become interested in sharks?
Probably the same way everyone else has become interested in sharks, and that is with the Jaws movie, of course. Those of us of a certain age, I guess. It was a forbidden movie. I was too young. I wasn't supposed to watch it.
Yeah.
But I snuck downstairs when everybody was asleep because it was on the air at like 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night. And I got busted because I screamed a few times, and they caught me watching the show.
Jaws famously features a robot great white shark, basically like a mechanical great white shark, which at the time was pretty good. I'm not sure. Have you seen it recently? How does it stand up recently?
If you were to watch it today, it would look so fake. But at the time, it was very real. The mechanical shark in the movie Jaws had a lot of problems. It didn't work half the time.
Right.
And if you know the behind the scenes of Jaws, the shark, it really didn't work. So that opening scene with the woman, she was supposed to be being eaten by the shark. Well, the shark didn't work the day of filming. So they decided to tie ropes around her, and people were underwater pulling the woman back and forth. And it made it look like she was being attacked by a shark. And that created an actually more fearful scene because it was using your imagination and not a fake looking mechanical shark.
We haven't even gotten into the Clearwater Threshers yet, and we're learning all sorts of lessons here. The interesting thing about that, obviously, it's a great white shark. It was huge in Jaws. I mean, it was fear-inspiring because it's, one of the greatest predators ever to live. And the thresher shark, I think, is not necessarily that. So Amy and I were just at the Clearwater Threshers at the time of this recording. It was just this past weekend. And, the logo is this great thresher shark with this very long tail. Not necessarily, you could maybe correct me here, not necessarily the most imposing, scary shark that there is out there. What is it that makes a thresher shark distinct from the other sharks?
Definitely the long tail. That I think the thresher shark is probably the most recognizable shark of all because of its very long tail. So it has the upper lobe of the tail fin, which is called the caudal fin, is at least half the length of the body. So they can grow up to 15 or 20 feet. So the tail alone could be 7 to 10 feet easily, just the tail.
All right.
And so you have to be careful I have caught thresher sharks, and in the water, they look like a snake because that tail just slithers through the water. But if you get a shark on board, and that tail could cut you open. So don't think that they're completely harmless, but they do have a little mouth compared to their body. They have big eyes and a little mouth. They've got this cute little face. They kind of look like a Cabbage Patch Kid, and they have this expression on their face like they just did something really embarrassing and they hope nobody noticed. Sort of have this like paranoid look on their face all the time, and it's frozen. They probably should be used more in memes. The face you make when they'd be perfect for that kind of a thing.
Well, in the logo, Brandios definitely accentuated the sort of sleekness and the speed, I think, maybe of the thresher shark. I mean, it's not, like you say, big, muscular, full of scary teeth. It's more sort of angular, and it's gonna whip you with its tail rather than, shred you to pieces. So I'm curious, if you're going to use a thresher shark as a mascot for a team, perhaps it has certain qualities that would make it a good athlete, specifically in this case, a baseball player. Is there something about the thresher shark that you feel would, make it specifically good at baseball or good at sports in general?
Well, for the sports in general, I would say maybe people don't know that the thresher shark can jump. It can use its tail to propel it through the water so forcefully it can jump clear out of the water.
All right.
See what I did there? Clear out of the water, clear water.
You were throwing your hand up in the air as you were saying clear out of the water, because we're talking about the Clearwater Threshers. I do see what you did there.
They can jump clear out of the water. And I was thinking about this. So, I mean, obviously they have this whip-like tail. And actually what the tail is used for is that's how they have evolved this evolutionary strategy to compete for food, because a lot of sharks also eat fish. So their advantage is they tilt their body forward, and they use their tail like a trebuchet to stun their prey. So when the prey is stunned, then they can eat the fish. So they have recorded the speed of the thresher shark's tail to be approximately 80 miles an hour. It can whip its tail about 80 miles an hour.
Whoa.
Do you know the average swing of a batter? Do you know how fast a batter would swing a bat?
Exit velocity has been like a big deal with like the stat people in baseball. And so I actually do know that the average exit velocity of a baseball being hit is 95 miles an hour. And the average swing in the major league level, the average swing of a bat is between 65 and 85, usually around 70 miles an hour. So the thresher shark, you're saying, is swinging its tail faster than a Major League Baseball player. Most Major League Baseball players are swinging their bat.
Right. So I mean, that's the highest speed recorded. So
Wow.
you'd expect that if a thresher shark's in the major leagues, probably at the upper end of that. So if you extrapolate that formula out to thresher shark terms, that would mean that would give us a ball speed of 108 miles an hour.
Whoa.
So I think it'd be a pretty good hitter.
I think the thresher shark, is going to be a pretty good power hitter. That's a great stat. This is the sabermetrics guys are going to love this stat about the thresher sharks. So it's a good jumper. I'm starting to feel really good about the thresher shark now as a mascot.
Yeah, I imagine it would be pretty good at stealing bases as quick as it can swim.
This does bring up the point. I mean, sharks are so fascinating, right? Like, and I loved fish when I was little. I loved sharks. I mean, I had that period as well. They're incredibly fascinating animals, and there's all these different varieties of them. Across the state from Clearwater, you've got the Jupiter hammerheads. I've always thought hammerheads were a little bit goofy looking. I don't know that they can't really see. I don't know that a hammerhead's going to make a good baseball player.
They do look goofy, but as a matter of fact, they have the best eyesight of all sharks because their eyes are on either side of their head, and they can see almost 360 degrees. So they look goofy, but that's one of their advantages.
All right. I actually didn't know that. I, for some reason, had it in my head that they were not good visually. It does bring up the point, though. There's all these different kinds of sharks out there. Are there any other sharks out there that, that we're not using for mascots in baseball that we should be? What are the sharks that would be the best baseball players out there?
I'm not sure if great white is taken, tiger, bull shark.
I don't think any of those are taken. I can't think of. There's a team in Australia called the Adelaide Bite. They've got a mascot that's just a letter with a bite taken out of it by a shark. There were the outside of Philadelphia where I grew up, there was the Camden River Sharks for a little while. Is that a thing? Is that a real thing, a river shark, or did they just put two words together?
Yes, bull sharks have been known to go up estuaries and into rivers. So a bull shark can survive in fresh water. I've heard stories of them going up the Mississippi River.
Well, so this is Philadelphia. That's right by the Atlantic. Do bull sharks get as far north as the Mid-Atlantic there, the Philadelphia region? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, another reason to stay out of the rivers.
One of the mascots that isn't used that probably should be would be the megalodon shark. And there's nothing more intimidating than that.
It's enormous. The megalodon, that's different from the one that these terrible movies, The Meg, are based on.
No, that's the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, it's the same thing. Okay. Well, that would be great. That would be a great mascot. Just a gigantic shark as big as a house. That would be fun. There is another baseball connection with sharks, and I know that your family is very musical. I know that you in particular are very musical. You're the first person that I've ever interviewed on this podcast who showed up with a microphone that is very clearly for singing rather than for podcasting. So clear. And you're even holding it like you're about to start singing here. The Washington Nationals a few years back adopted the song Baby Shark when one of their players, Gerardo Parra, made it his walk-up song during a particularly successful season for that team. And so I'm curious to know, on the way out of here, can we ask you to give us one line, one verse of Baby Shark?
All right. Baby shark do 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 do, baby shark do 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 do, baby shark do 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 do, baby shark. And then it goes on to say, is it mommy shark, daddy shark?
I think so. And
But it
then
really should be daddy shark, mommy shark, because female sharks are bigger. So they'd get progressively bigger.
that is a great tip on that song. Then there are like grandparent
I
family.
think it goes on and on and
members.
on and on and on and on. Yeah.
It does. It does. That's actually what that song does exactly.
Yeah.
Karrie-
I used to direct a children's choir with a music teacher. And just to irritate her, I would teach all the kids how to sing the Baby Shark song because she hated it. And yeah, that was funny.
Karrie, thank you so much. This has been a blast. Can't wait to explore some shark-based baseball with you in person someday. We have never met. I just met your sister and your mom for the first time, so I anticipate that you and I will meet in person someday. In the meantime, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Sounds great. Thanks, Paul. It's been fun.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Dan Simon is here with a Studio Simon stumper. Dan Simon of the design firm Studio Simon, one of the top designers in the field, one of the most respected and well-established designers in all of minor league baseball. And it's so much fun that I get to talk to you every single week for Studio Simon stumpers. This is one of my favorite times of the week, getting to chat with you about the work that you do and the work that others do out there in minor league baseball. So I'll ask you as I do every week. Dan, how are you?
I am fabulously fantastic. Thank you.
This is good. This is alliterative, and we've got an adverb to go with our adjective once again. We are talking about the Clearwater Threshers, who I cheekily sometimes will call the Clearwater Threshers. The Clearwater Threshers play at the ballpark where the Phillies have their spring training. I very recently got to go to my very first Threshers home game, and so that was a lot of fun. It was like they doubled down on the Philliness of the ballpark there. So it was a fun experience for me, being surrounded by all that Phillies paraphernalia at a minor league baseball game.
Well, speaking of doubling down on the Philliness, it has been established that Bryce Harper has done the same. He has really embraced being a Philly. It was like from the start, and it only continues to grow. And when you mention the pronunciation of Clearwater as Clearwater, I remember, it seems like it was several spring trainings ago, seeing a photo of Bryce Harper with a shirt during spring training that said Clearwater, spelled however you would spell water instead of water. You got to love Bryce Harper.
You do.
Somebody who's he is really, like I said, he's embraced Philadelphia, and he's also really raised his game. He has become the, I think he was considered by some overrated, but the way he's been playing, I don't know that he's overrated anymore. No. He is a legitimate superstar.
He is a joy to watch as a Phillies fan. I remember when he was on the Nationals, just thinking, I just wish he were on my team, right? Like, you want to hate him, but you can't, because you just want him on your team. I feel that way right now about Ronald Acuna. I want to really dislike Ronald Acuna because he's a Brave, but he's just so much fun to watch. And I don't hate him. I just wish he were playing for the Phillies instead of the Braves. And so Bryce Harper, has had so many signature moments and has done such a good job of just embracing Philadelphia and, the fanatic and the fans, and he listens to the sports radio. He was on an interview the other day talking about how, he hit a home run for like some caller to WIP, the radio, the Phillies radio station there. And so, he's a joy to watch. And I have watched his home run against the Padres that put the Phillies in the World Series last year maybe 1,000 times on YouTube, because that's a signature moment of the last decade for the Phillies right there, is Bryce Harper putting the Phillies in the World Series after their unexpected run in the playoffs last year. Yeah,
that was, I would put that up there with one of the most memorable moments ever in a baseball game I've watched. It's number one for me, is, and always will be, Kirk Gibson's home run in the 1988 World Series. That is the greatest moment, not just in baseball, but in sports. But I will say, and I've watched a lot of baseball games in my life, that home run that he hit was Bryce Harper we're talking about, was so dramatic. Talk about coming through big in the clutch. It was, and the fans, their reaction to it, it was like my whole TV was rocking. The fans' joy was coming through my TV and rocking my whole living room.
It was like they didn't know what to do with like their limbs and their body. It was like this just sea of humanity, which I got to experience, and I talked about it. We've discussed Anna DiTomaso's baseball bucket list podcast on this podcast. I got to experience a World Series game 3 last year that the Phillies won 7-0, and this feeling of not knowing what to do with your body in a moment like that. Like you're just, you're hugging people, you're high-fiving, you're clapping, you're yelling, and you can see that in, when it's a packed stadium and there are 48,000 people all doing the same thing, like just this joy that can't be contained is, that was one of those moments. And one of my favorite things about watching the replay is they have all these different angles and you can see the stands in them, and you can see the moment he makes contact and everyone realizes like, oh my gosh, this has a chance to put the Phillies ahead in the bottom of the 8th inning. And so anyway, we got derailed, but what a fun derailment right there. We're here to talk about the Clearwater Threshers, who have a brand that is based on a shark that lives in the Gulf of Mexico, and have a very Phillies-ish brand, but they also have their own unique identity, which is obviously something you and I both support. So let's see, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about sharks. We can talk about Bryce Harper. We can talk about the Fanatic. We can talk about pronunciations of Clearwater, which, by the way, I have that shirt. I have that Clearwater shirt, or a version of it that Bryce Harper had, and I wore it to the game in Clearwater.
Where did you get that shirt? Was it available for purchase at the stadium?
No, my brother and his wife got it for me as either a birthday present or a Christmas present, and they bought it on the boardwalk in Ocean City, New Jersey.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, there's no surprise here, or it should not be surprising, that we are going to talk about sharks with regard to today's studio assignment stumper. This isn't the stumper. We're not going to make it a double stumper like we have been doing a little bit in recent stumper segments. But I am going to ask you, how many different species of sharks do you think there are in the world? Give a wild guess. How many? You just throw out a round number.
150.
That would be a lot, don't you think?
I don't know. The biodiversity that exists out there in the world. I thought I might be coming in low. I thought I was, coming in low without going over. I'm sticking to it, 150.
Okay. Well, you did come in low, because according to the internet, and I've seen a couple of different numbers, but from a number of different sources, they say there are over 500 different species of sharks in the world.
Wow. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And now that would give ample opportunity for sharks to be used in sports branding, you would think. We obviously know there's a hockey team, the San Jose Sharks.
Yeah.
We've got the Jupiter Hammerheads. And there have been others. So let's talk about some of those others.
Okay.
We do 2 truths and a lie here. Okay.
Well, it's been a while since we've done 2 truths and a lie. I like this.
Well, time to revive it.
All right.
Which of these shark species was not used as a brand identity for a professional baseball team? Which one was not? Was it A, bull sharks, B, sand sharks, or C, land sharks? Bull sharks, sand sharks, land sharks.
Bull sharks, sand sharks, land sharks. I know that land shark is a beer brewed in St. Louis, of all places. Bull sharks I've heard from people who know about sharks are the scariest of sharks. Like if you had to choose between swimming with a bull shark and swimming with a great white, you would choose the great white because bull sharks are apparently the most aggressive. So I feel like that one wants to be a sports brand. Sand sharks are notoriously docile, I think. I don't think a sand shark is a really scary mascot. Not that a mascot has to be scary. I was hoping you were going to say river sharks because I grew up not too far from Camden, and the Camden River Sharks in New Jersey were an independent professional team for a little while. So I don't know the answer to this. I think bull sharks has to be a mascot out there somewhere just because they're the most aggressive, and that would be one that I could see being a sports mascot. Land shark. Wasn't that also a Saturday Night Live sketch where there was an encyclopedia salesman who was knocking at the door, and the woman behind the door was like, you're trying to sell me encyclopedias, and he's like, no, I'm a land shark. And that was from the like the early days of Saturday Night Live.
It was so much from the early days of Saturday Night Live that he was not an encyclopedia salesman. He was a land shark, and it was played by Chevy Chase, and he was only on the first season of Saturday Night Live.
Oh.
So that goes back to whatever that was, 1976, I believe.
Okay.
75, maybe.
So sand sharks are not scary, but they are at least a real animal. So bull sharks are scary. Sand sharks are real, and they probably sort of speak to the place, right? Like where a team might play. So sand sharks sound like they could be real. Land shark is both a beer and a Saturday Night Live sketch. And so that one feels to me like it's probably the least likely to be a team. So I'm going to say the two truths are bull shark and sand shark, and the lie is land shark.
You got one truth right, but not two. Because, well, let's go through these.
Okay.
The bull sharks was a recent alternate identity by the Durham Bulls.
Of course.
Yeah, I thought you would know that one right off. And you did guess that bull sharks was one of the truths, but you didn't mention.
No, I wasn't thinking of Durham. I was thinking of like it was probably a team in like Australia or something because they've got lots of scary sharks there.
So bull sharks counts as a truth.
Yeah.
And land sharks was the name of, speaking of the River Sharks being an independent team, there was the Mohawk Valley Land Sharks of the long defunct independent Northeast League.
Oh.
And if you look them up on the internet, year founded 1995, year disbanded 1995. So long defunct league, short-lived team. I actually went to a Mohawk Valley Land Sharks game. It was on a visit to the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And the Mohawk Valley area has Little Falls, New York, which is where this team played. They played at Little Falls Veterans Memorial Park. It was in a beautiful setting, just mountainous trees and everything, beautiful setting. But I have seen average high school baseball facilities nicer than this one.
Oh, no.
This was in a day and age when there actually used to be an affiliated team that played in Little Falls. As a matter of fact, I believe a Mets affiliate played there. But back then, the standards for minor league facilities, there were no standards. You could play basically anywhere. This was no better than a high school field, regular wooden bleachers. And that was it. There was no, like, it wasn't a stadium. It was just a field with bleachers.
Yeah.
And that probably explains why they were founded and disbanded in the same season. So,
they were founded and disbanded in the year that I graduated from college. This goes back, Dan, by the way, because Sand Sharks was my initial inclination. And I instead of going with the initial inclination, because we told a story about you playing the Immaculate Grid on a recent episode, where you didn't go with your initial inclination and then you went with your second inclination and that one turned out to be right. And you said, I'm going to forgo telling you to go with your initial inclination from here on out. And I should have gone with my initial inclination because I heard sand sharks and I was just like, well, that's not much of a mascot. And I talked myself out of it because of Saturday Night Live and land shark beer. So,
let's talk about sand sharks. So
Okay.
it was not used as a brand identity for a professional baseball team, but it was and is the brand identity, the name for the University of South Carolina Beaufort Division II athletic program, the USCB Sand Sharks. So here's a little did you know, speaking of sharks. Sharks vary in size from the politically incorrectly named dwarf lantern shark, which is about the size of an average human hand, to the whale shark, which can get up to close to 40 feet long. Quite a range in size there in the world of sharks.
I'm going to go full hashtag humble brag here. I got to snorkel with whale sharks in Mexico, and that was a signature moment in my life. That was an incredible experience. The whale sharks are graceful and beautiful and amazing, and they eat plankton, which is why they're called whale sharks. They are a species of shark, but they're called whale sharks because they eat plankton. Could
you estimate how long the particular whale sharks swam amongst? How long it was?
They told us that this was that they were about 30 something, so they were pretty long, and if you got ahead of it, they would and you could swim alongside them. If you got ahead of it, they're pushing the water, right? Because they're so big, they're pushing the water, and you just glided along. But if you got behind it, the water coming off them was impossible. Even with the fins, the snorkel fins, it was impossible to keep up with them because there was so much water coming off them that it just sort of pushed you back. So, it sort of took a couple of times to make it work. But then once you do, holy smokes, what an experience.
I'm just amazed by large animals of any kind. And,
right.
Like the blue whale, I believe, is the largest whale. And it's just hard to believe that there is a living being on Earth that's that big. But there they are.
It's incredible. And, just a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the buffalo bisons, and they're the largest land mammal, the largest land mammal in North America, I should say.
Okay, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Have you seen an elephant?
Dan, I have seen an elephant, and I look forward to speaking to you again next week on Studio Simon Stumpers. I hope you have a great rest of the week.
You too. See you in 7.